Hi, welcome again, good students. This time round, or in this episode, we'll be digging straight into it's Edexcel English Language A, Paper 2, Poetry, Prose and Imaginative Writing. But in this episode, we're going to be looking in one of the poems which is examined in your exam, final exam paper 2, The Bright Lights of Sarajevo by Tony Harrison. Again, it is Edexcel English Language A, Paper 2, Poetry. The Bright Lights of Sarajevo by Tony Harrison. Now, successfully believing and assuming that you've read the text of the poem, we are going to take you through the analysis, specifically to our expectations from the examiners on the proper use of language, thoughts and feelings as they are conveyed in the text, and any other point or idea that will be examined apart from the use of language and thoughts and feelings as they are suggested in the poem. Brace yourself for a survey of the same. Welcome. Believing that you've read the text, responses may include the following points about the living conditions of the people of Sarajevo. So therefore, how has the poet Tony Harrison exposed or presented the living conditions of these particular people? Now, the poet shows that the people must wait for essentials like gas and food. As he says, they spend a long time queuing. And I quote, "After the hours that the Sarajevans pass, or queuing, the people must carry large items in any quote-unquote unusual way that they can," suggesting that they have little in the way of transport. And I quote from the text, "They wheel home in prams." The poet shows that the people are struggling and have very little food due to rationing. The precious meager grams of bread that they are rationed to each day. The way the poet describes the people dodging snipers on the way in their everyday lives shows a sense of danger and threat to them. Living conditions are difficult for the Sarajevan people as they must climb up sometimes 11 flights of stairs with water. The poet describes how the streets are unwelcoming, especially at night, and people potentially do not want to go out walking streets subshells destroyed, as they have such a daily struggle and there is no electricity. However, the poet describes how the young people, quote-unquote, of Sarajevo are relaxed at night as they go walking at a stroller's pace with stroller stride. The night helps to create equality between the young people as the darkness makes it impossible to mark as Muslim, Serb, or Croatian in such dark. The poet also explores how the dark streets at night make all language barriers obsolete. And I quote, "In unlit streets, you can't distinguish who calls bread bleb, or calls it kra. There is a sense that the young people of the city are used to the situation and are peaceful and uninterested in violence or war." And I quote, "No torches that guide them, but they don't collide." The young people of Sarajevo are shown to be typical of any young people who engage in flirtatious ploys. The poet shows the people live daily with the detritus of war. They stand on two shell scars. The poet progresses from describing the everyday actions of the people to later describing how war affected these when blood-danked crusts of shredded bread lay on the pavement with the broken dead, emphasizing the horror of this massacre. The Sarajevans live with the damage done by war. in holes made by the mortar, dead deep, dead dark wells, 8 flour sacks refilled with sand. The poet's mention of the curfew shows that the Sarajevan people have little freedom. That is the end of how the Sarajevans have been presented. Now, the responses may include the following points about the relationship between the young couple. How has the young couple been presented and uh, posed in the poem? The setting of the girl and boy meeting creates a sensuous feeling of romance. They meet in a lit street in the evening air. The poet suggests that the couple are symbolic of any young couple anywhere in the world, by referring to them as girls, dark shape liked by boys, and the dark boy shape leads the dark girl shape away. There is a sense of innocence and age in the description of the tone of voice and match flair taste. Innocence in the tender voices and age in the match or lighter to a cigarette. The poet's description of the couples implies that they have developed more of a relationship, as he describes how they have certainly progressed and how he's about, I think, to take her hand. The description of how the boy is about to lead her away from where they stand suggests tenderness as he moves her away from the scene of massacre. The poet does not describe them speaking to each other at all. We don't see that in the poem, suggesting what? Suggesting that words are unnecessary given their emotion. The setting is shown to be damaged and weather-beaten, with the holes made by the mortar and the rain that has poured down half the day. But the relationship is almost presented as a symbol of hope, as when the boy and girl meet, now even the smallest clouds have cleared away. The poet ironically suggests a romantic setting for the relationship: the Sarajevo star-filled evening sky, a candlelit cave. There is a feeling of romance and intimacy in the sharing of one coffee, although this is ironic as it links back to the people of Sarajevo having very little. The innocence of the relationship is juxtaposed with the horror of the massacre. And responses may include the following points about the use of language and structure. Good students, in that order. So here are the responses on the use of language and structure. The title of the poem suggests a positive image in the description of bright lights, which could be seen as ironic or as a symbol of hope for the future. The poet uses close to rhyming couplets to demonstrate sense of immediacy for the people and hurried urgency in the poem, and that is double A B B rhyme scheme. The The present participle in the first stanza of the poem suggests a sense of continued and ongoing difficulty for the Sarajevan people. Queuing, dodging, struggling. There are also verbs in the past tense throughout the poem that show the negative impact of the events on the people. Rationed, destroyed, massacred, splintered. The poet describes the lifestyle of the people as limited or difficult, suggesting an imposed lifestyle that the people have not chosen. Queuing, empty, meager, rationed, devoid, curfew, eight floor sacks, sorry. Enjambment is used in the first stanza to create a continuum in the poem, suggesting the daily struggle is regular and continuing for the people of Sarajevo. Peaceful, gentle language is equally used later in the poem to demonstrate a contrast with the everyday events for the people of Sarajevo rather, and the young couples. The writer demonstrates a contrast with the everyday events. Okay, now the young go walking. I repeated that. The young go walking at a stroller's pace. All take the evening's air with the stroller's stride. They don't collide. Colloquial use of contractions and personal comment suggests that the poet is giving his own personal views on the people in the poem. They are, you would, that's, can't, he is, who have. Now, I think, adverbs are used by the poet to suggest certainty in the experience of the people. And I quote, totally, certainly, we have got ideally, and we've got, yeah, that is it, and that is ideally, although the use of ideally is ironic as it links to the potential danger to the people of the bomber's eyes. The repetition of the word sub emphasizes to the reader that the experiences of the people in Sarajevo are impacted by the actions of the Bosnia. Subs, the line breaks after that's just not the case, which creates a sense of unexpected actions by the people, almost like a cliffhanger imagery of darkness, which suggests a dark time for the people. And I quote, black shapes impossible to mark, such dark, unlit streets, no torches guide them. Dark shape, dark boy shape leads the dark girl shape away. A candlelit cave. These images are also used by the poet to suggest a sense of equality for the people and unity of religion, race, and language as the people become indistinguishable because of the dark. Impossible to mark as Muslim, Serb, or Croatian in such dark. You can't distinguish who calls bread jleb or leb or calls it kra. The poet uses gentle romantic language to suggest an innocence in the relationship between the young people. Flirtatious, fancied, tender, take a hand, holds a hand, star-filled evening sky, which of course contrasts with the effects of war on the people. The poet uses first person to suggest that he's almost a reporter of events as they are happening to these people. I see a pair. He's about, I think, to take a hand. The image of the tone of voice and much flair test creates a sense of a well-used strategy for the young people of Sarajevo. Imagery of death and destruction creates a sense of horror in what is happening and has happened to the people. And I quote, dodging snipers, sub shells destroyed, two shell scars, sub motors massacred, the bread shop queue, blood danked crust of shredded bread, broken dead, bomber's eye, sub motor shells. The poet also distances the people of Sarajevo from the causes of it, almost personifying the weapons of war in order to place emphasis on the people he is seeing, not the people who bomb or shoot them. Subshells destroyed, sub-motors massacred, holes made by the mortar that caused the massacre by sub-mortar shells. The ultimate causes of damage are the people who use the weapons, but the poet makes the focus on the people of the city. There is the use of hyphenated descriptions which creates powerful images of people and their situations. Blood-dunked, star-filled, rainfall, shell holes, death deep, death dark. The use of sibilants throughout the poem creates a sense of unity and emphasis on the experiences of people. Strollers stride, shows by its signals, shell scars, Sarajevo star-filled evening sky, splintered, sprinkled, splashed. The final line of the poem demonstrated that the people cannot do what they do alone, and the threat of violence is still there, as they have 8 flour sacks refilled with sand.